You're an antique dealer, right? Okay. What's that?
A sword?
Wise up, smartass.
I gotta return them.
Why?
Because I don't want swords,
Why
Brendan.
don't you want swords?
Who would want swords?
I do.
And the nice thing about these practice katanas... Ow! Oh, that hurt.
You must have big ruts. You need a hot hands of steel.
This thing rules. The same rules.
Oh, hey, what's up? I'm Brian Altano.
And I'm Max Scoville.
This is a show where we discuss something we love,
Unpack why we love it,
explain where it came from,
try to remember our first impressions of it,
share our weird stories about it,
maybe learn something new about it along the way.
but first and foremost, we're here to celebrate the fact that this thing rules.
Hey, you want to talk about the S word?
I'll take S words for 100, Max.
Let's talk about swords. That's the
Let's
best
do it.
S word there is. Swords are awesome with the minor caveat that they were invented to kill people, which kind of sucks. But, you know, as a concept in fiction, in media, in art, etc., they're kind of fucking cool, right?
They're really cool, and I think that this is dark, but since swords were invented, more, I guess, better ways were created to kill people. So now when people die from swords, it's funny.
That's fair. I wouldn't necessarily say funny, but it is definitely an oddity, you know?
Funnier
like
than dying from,
Sure, yeah,
from
yeah.
other stuff. Like it's like if you killed someone with a cannonball in 2025 by shooting it out of a cannon.
I feel like more people probably die from cannonballs, the dive, than they do from the object.
Do you think more people die from cannonballs the dive than they do from swords?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, I do. I you know, with the exception of maybe people who like stab themselves trying to do like mall ninja shit. So like this is, I don't even know how we got to this. I think, well, I got
What are you
some.
talking? We made a whole show about talking about stuff that we
That's
love.
true.
That's
True.
cool. And swords are cool.
Swords are fucking awesome.
Yeah,
I
they're
don't-
really cool.
I don't consider myself a sword guy, but I have a lot of swords sort of accidentally. They've just kind of accumulated them, you know? Mm-hmm. You know, like you do in Skyrim, you just pick up shit. You kill a bunch of wizards or whatever, and you wind up with swords, and gems.
Do you have a good amount, or are you over encumbered? Do you feel the need to release the weight of some of these swords?
running lately, but I also can't sleep, so maybe there are enemies nearby. Who's to say?
That is true.
But yeah, so I have like a sort of quasi estranged adopted brother. And the first time I met him, this is like, you know, decades ago, you know, I guess 20 years ago at this point, we've been emailing for a little bit, and he's a bit older than me. And his mom is my dad's ex-wife. So there's no genetic connection there, but we are very much on the same page in terms of weird dorky shit. And he's very much filled that role of like cool older brother who's like, hey, check out this shit I got. The first time I met him, he was like driving through town and he was like, hey, I got a sword. You need a sword? And I was like, yeah, I do. And he gave me this fucking broadsword, which was like not like a super nice one. It was one of those ones you'd get at the mall.
Okay.
And I don't know, over the years, he's like one Christmas, he gave me like a fucking like tactical like Tonto knife, which looks like a little baby katana, but it's got like the kind of carbon fiber Metal Gear Solid 4 aesthetic to it. And he's like,
is he like getting rid of shit like they do with the pants and the sand and the, you know, Shawshank or whatever? Like, is this like stuff that he doesn't want the cops to see, that he's just kind of handing off to you?
I'll get to that in a second, you know, because currently I am sort of harboring swords for him. But yeah, he's given me like a variety of just odd bladed instruments over the years, because he's the kind of dude who's like, yeah, cool oddity devices, things, you know, swords, they're fun, knives, whatever. I have like he gave me like a fucking bayonet. Like I have like 2 bayonets. I don't have any guns. I have 2 bayonets though, which is a weird thing to have. But most recently he emailed me, and okay, he currently, I swear to God, this is not bullshit. This is not made up. He lives on an island in Vietnam where his job is to keep people from killing the monkeys.
Okay.
Like he lives on a monkey sanctuary in Ha Long Bay in Vietnam.
Do a lot of people get there and try to kill the monkeys?
Some people try to eat the monkeys. They try to go
eat
there.
them?
I don't know what they do with them. They fucking try to catch them or shoot them.
So
or
he
bother
uses
them.
does he use the swords?
No. He does not.
Island?
He doesn't use the swords. He doesn't.
Where
the
is this going?
Okay, the swords are not.
I thought this episode was about swords.
Okay, I'm getting there. So he emailed
Do the
me.
monkeys have swords?
No, the monkeys do not have swords.
Is the island shaped like a sword?
I don't. Maybe it's like those.
People
those,
come to the island with swords?
Probably not. But okay, so he emailed.
Are there
like,
swordfish near the island, like Donkey Kong Country?
I don't think so. You can't ride them. That's for sure. Can you ride? You can ride the swordfish, right?
In Donkey Kong Country, yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay.
I
need to be explicitly clear.
Yeah.
Only there.
Don't do it with that big stuffed one on the wall at your dentist's office. That's not okay either. Do not ride that swordfish. So anyway, he emailed me pretty recently and was like, this, it was like a very mundane email about like, oh, I'm going to be in town for Thanksgiving. We're trying to coordinate plans, like boring calendar shit. And he goes, oh, and by the way, do you want a sword? And I was like, what? This again? And he's like, listen, there's this dude I've been wanting to buy a sword from. Unfortunately, in Vietnam, swords are illegal. So what if I bought a sword, had him mail it to you, but I also bought you a sword. So you have 2 swords. One of them is mine for an indefinite amount of time.
And one of them always tells the truth.
Here's the website. Go pick out a sword. And I was just like, I don't know. This was like over Thanksgiving break or some dumb weekend, and I'm like a few tall boys deep, and I'm like watching bad fucking B movies on my friend's couch, and I'm like, oh shit, I got the Sword Shop online. I'm on this dumb website. I'm looking at all these different swords.
What's the name of the website? Sword Shop Online?
No, it's not. It's actually like a legit. They forged this shit. Like it's an actual like blacksmith website, whatever.
Okay.
It's called like LK Chen, and it's, as far as I can tell, like it's company based in China. And I was like, I'm not sure what kind of quality is going to be. Is it going to be like Mall Ninja shit? Is it going to be like mass produced? These fucking swords show up, and I picked a katana because I was like, yeah, I've never had a legit katana. I just should have a katana. And he says, I get this fucking ridiculously nice, like, we're on an audio podcast, so unsheathing a sword isn't really that impressive. Also, in movies, whenever somebody's like pulls out a sword or a knife and it's like Schwing, that's not good, and that's not what they sound like, like it's like that's me unsheathing a katana. But anyway,
are you saying that they embellished it to make it sound cooler?
It sounds cooler.
I think they should do that.
That's kind of a good, I don't know. That's
a good click. I mean, that also sounds like you just put a Nintendo Switch Joy-Con in.
Yeah, that's true. It's a really fucking nice sword. Mm-hmm. And the thing I didn't realize is he paid extra to get them sharpened. So they're like as sharp as my best kitchen knife.
Okay.
Which is not necessary. I don't know what to do with that. And that
you
also,
carved the turkey with it.
I could, and I'm really tempted to fucking just start fucking stuff up and just play around. I want to do Fruit Ninja in the yard. I want someone to throw.
You have a kid and a pet. So
I would do this when they're not around. You know?
You have arms and hands that you need. Feet.
I feel like, so I do have a very small dog, but if I were to be playing Fruit Ninja with swords in the yard, the danger to the child would be dismemberment, but the danger to the dog would be apple seeds if I was cutting apples in half because they have arsenic in them, because that's bad for dogs.
Right.
Or if I was doing grapes, which is like Fruit Ninja challenge mode.
I was actually thinking that the danger would be the sword.
The sword is a pretty obvious one, but it's always the things you least expect.
The sword is more obvious than the apple, as the saying goes.
the penis mightier than the sword. And he also sent me this fucking German rapier, which is like it's basically the Reader Palash from Bloodborne, but there's not a gun on it. Like it's
it's got the twirls on it. What do they call it on the hilt?
See, this is why I'm not a sword guy. I don't know what the fuck it's called. There's like
let's back up real quick. For the sake of our audience,
for the sake of swords,
for the sake of our listeners, I think it's important that we establish
what's a sword,
what a sword is, and everyone knows a sword is a blade that stops, and then there's another part.
Yeah, okay. You mean there's a handle on it?
Yeah, it doesn't just you don't just pick up the whole thing and go,
the earliest swords were just one continuous blade, and the people who picked them up would just cut their fingers off. So they were like, we got to figure out some better way. Yeah. I actually Googled this. This is the second dumbest thing I Googled this week. The first was I had a bad stomach bug, and I actually typed in which Gatorade restores the most HP. Because I was like thinking that as a joke, and then I typed it in, and I was like, that's not a question. The other question is what is a sword, or like what makes a sword? Mm-hmm. How long does a sword have to be a sword? And the weird answer I got was like up to 12 inches it's a knife, but like, or up to 18 inches it's a knife or a dagger, but over 24 inches it's a sword. But what if it's like 21 inches. Is that a sword or a dagger? Like, where does that fall?
Yeah, like some guy stabs you with a 20-inch blade and you call the police and you're like, I've been stabbed. Oh, by what, sir? I want to call it a sword because it's fucking huge.
Yeah.
You might have a different definition.
Well, I did a school project in senior year about, we had to learn, like, do something from like the California code or like some legal bullshit. And I was like, I'm going to talk about the part in the California penal code that says what weapons you can and can't have. And according to the California penal code, nunchucks is any two things that are connected by something else.
So like the just married cans on the back of a car?
Kind of. If you count the car and the can as two things, then that's a nunchuck. It's probably not an ideal one.
Are two guys handcuffed in a buddy comedy a nunchuck?
Probably. I don't know. That's a good
That
one.
makes no sense. I don't like that
those,
at all.
Those fancy ass beeswax candles they got at Whole Foods are a fucking nunchuck.
Pain in the ass, California.
Right? Stupid. And also, you can have a sword. Like swords, they don't give a shit about. You're not supposed to carry them around or whatever. But a cane sword is a big no-no because it's a secret sword. So, like, if you have one of those canes that has a sword inside it and you whip it out, like, ha, like, that's not allowed.
Okay, so...
But if you just walk around with a sword like a cane, it's probably bad for the sword, but I think you're allowed to do that, ?
So I could go hiking with, like, a sword walking stick, and a cop who is also hiking in this story that's not real would go, that's a great walking stick you have there that isn't a sword.
Probably. I think that seems like a really, really stupid way to die, to go hiking with a sword, but also something that I would probably
I thought you meant to go hiking as a cop.
Yeah, to go hiking as a cop.
There's no donuts on this mountain.
Wait at the bottom of the mountain and be like, yeah, get down from there. But no, like, I don't know, that's just stupid to me that, like, but again, it's the same deal. It's like, at what point does a knife become a sword? You know, because at some point a knife becomes like a dagger.
Yeah.
And at some point, a dagger becomes a sword. But then if you keep going, it becomes some other shit entirely. Also, if the handle is really, really long, then it becomes a spear or like a pole arm.
Oh, yeah.
Right? It's stupid.
Yeah. And I don't really like spears or pole arms as much as I like swords and knives.
I like a good halberd.
Let me ask you this. If you had a blade and
I have several of them right here. Go on.
Yeah, but one side had a handle, right? And there's this really sharp blade, but then the other side also had a handle, and two people could hold one on each side and go running towards a guy and sort of just like guillotine him,
like a lumberjack sword,
like a lumberjack
like one
sword,
of those two-handed lumberjack saws, but a sword.
Like they're like somebody's running through a finish line or something,
like a limbo pole, but you kill people.
Like a limbo pole, but you behead people. Is that a sword or a nunchuck?
I don't know what that is. That's not a sword, I don't think. I think a sword has to have one handle. What?
No one's ever done that before?
Someone's probably done that.
I feel like FromSoft needs to do that.
That's stupid. For
co-op.
No one needs to do that. I love it, though. I like the idea. What's your favorite sword?
I actually wrote a list.
Oh, sick. Do it.
Yeah.
Whip it out.
Here are my 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, actually 8 favorite swords I like by Brian Altano. Okay. Number one of the best swords I think ever, because it's kind of a puzzle, is the Sword in the Stone.
Yeah.
I think it's a really good one because everyone's like, get out of my way, I can do it. And then they fucking can't.
You know that sword's name?
Yeah, it's called Sword in the Stone. It's from the movie Sword in the Stone.
It's fucking Excalibur, man.
That's not true.
Okay, go on.
People have all sorts of different names for it. People call it all sorts of different expletives when they're trying to pull it out.
One guy calls it Rob.
They go, fucking things fucking stuck. They do that a lot. I really like, obvious one. Everyone knows the one from Zelda. So I'm not going to say the Master Sword. I'm going to say the Begoron Sword, because I love that big fucking stupid sword from Ocarina of Time. Do you know what the Begoron Sword is?
Refresh my memory. Begoron, tell me.
A Begoron is a big Goron. He's huge. He's absolutely massive. He is a mountain-sized unit, and you go to him, and he makes you do all sorts of fuckery and side quests.
That fucking thing.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
And he gives you the biggest sword in the world, and you never really use it because it's so dumb and big. But there's a part at the end of the game where you're fighting Ganon, and he smacks your Master Sword out of your hand. You can run around the room and try to find it and chase him down. But a lot of times people, that's when they remember, oh shit, I got this big fucking dumb sword I got from the bald rock guy that lives in the Goron village. So that's a good one. The Hattori Hanzo sword from Kill Bill. I like that one because it's special, and there's a whole story behind it. There's a whole training sequence, and it's like this extremely rare thing. And then it ends up in like a camper van or whatever, and with a snake. And I like that a lot too. Ludwig's Holy Blade from Bloodborne. Another huge fucking sword. Lots of great weapons in that game. Not really a sword guy when I play that game. I play a lot of other different things, whips and chains and saw blades and such and what have yous. But I really like that one.
What about in like Elden Ring? You like big
Elden
swords?
Ring? My favorite one is the grafted blade greatsword, and it is dumb as hell. It's like if they took the chair from Game of Thrones and turned it into a sword. It's a sword with just 100 little swords on it.
Oh, that's so stupid. That looks
so stupid.
That looks like shit a third grader would draw on like notebook paper, you know?
Yep.
Like I remember being in like a comic drawing class in 1994 and some dude was like, I drew this character and he's got knives for hands, but also knives on his shoes. And I'm like, why would you have knives on your shoes? That's fucking dumb. And then I don't know, there's like a dude in Guilty Gear or Soul Calibur or whatever, who's like Goldo or whatever, has like knife feet hands.
You go like slow dancing with your wife and you cut off her feet by accident.
Yeah.
Leonardo's katanas from TMNT. My first exposure to katanas outside of just like generic ninja drawings or whatever I was exposed to in the 80s. They're just fucking awesome. And it's also really funny that in his most iconic roles holding those things, he never gets to use them for anything really cool. In the cartoon, they fight robots. The foot soldiers are robots, so he gets to slice those guys up a little bit, but he's never really like stabbing any of the mutants, or he doesn't like stab Shredder really. And then in the live action movies, he uses them even less because all the Foot Clan are like just regular ass teenagers.
Yeah, he's not going to like disembowel a youth group or whatever. That's not cool.
Yeah. And
like
I did want to
signed up to fucking smoke menthol cigarettes and play narc while skateboarding, and he's just suddenly they're going to get fucking, get their heads cut off by a fucking abomination that lives in the sewers. It's horrible. Nobody wants that.
It doesn't make any sense.
Well, just remember, don't do drugs.
Imagine like the rest of your life, you're at a bar and you're missing like an arm and someone's like, so what happened, man? And you're like, this fucking toilet freak in the sewer cut my hand off when I was, trying to steal a fucking 16-inch CRT TV in the 80s. And I wanted to give an honorable mention to what is it? So I'm not a big Final Fantasy guy, but the
Buster
fucking,
Sword?
No, the Gunblade is so
from 8, yeah,
it's so dumb that it's worth mentioning, and I love it. And I think that, and I know the show's called This Thing Rules. I'm going to take this opportunity to say a thing that I don't think rules is the Keyblade, which isn't even a fucking blade.
Dude, we were doing this show was doing great. You got to piss off.
I know we've been doing this for
Hearts.
months, and I didn't piss off any Kingdom
We got to go on like
fan.
an apology tour. We got to get fucking Jonathan Dornbush and Jack
It's not a
DeVries out here
blade.
to talk about Kingdom Hearts.
He's just fucking hitting people with it. It's not a blade. It's not, it's you just get a bat.
Originally that was going to be a chainsaw.
Really?
Yeah. What's his name? Why do I did like a whole video on like chainsaws. That's a story for another day. I did like the deep dive on like all the chainsaws in video games, which took way too long and like 1,300 people watched it or whatever.
What do you think kills people more, deep dives or chainsaws?
Damn, that's a good question.
Yeah. I gotta say,
like how deep? I feel like a deep dive that's really like drowning is a deep dive, essentially. Not really a deliberate one, but
okay.
No, what's his face? The guy who the FF7 Kingdom Hearts guy. He went to the Disney execs and was like, "Check it out. So here's the main character for this game where Donald Duck is a mage, and it's just like a dude with a chainsaw." And they were like, maybe not. And he was like, "All right, it's." He probably like looked around the room and he's like, what could be a weapon? And he's like, feels in his pocket. He's like, aha, keys. Yeah, I don't know. That's fine.
Yeah. What if he beats people with house keys? Is that better? Sure.
That's that's a good self-defense tactic, I guess.
Is the key to the city that he got for?
I do like that. That's my headcanon as someone who's never played Kingdom Hearts. I think that's what happened is that Sora did some good public service and had just finished his part-time job as a mascot at some off-brand theme park, thus the large shoes. I think he wore like a big mouse head on top of that outfit, and then had to go to get a key from the mayor. Because I know went through a portal and then met Donald Duck and Goofy.
I don't have a lot of information on this story I'm about to tell, so the facts are going to be limited.
Doing great.
Here we go. I know that the mayor gave Shaquille O'Neal the key to a city. That's all I have. I recognize that feels sort of like Mad Libs, but it's real. I just don't know where or when it takes place. And I like the idea of him getting the key to the city and being like, thanks, boss. That's great. That's really helpful. And then he just goes outside and starts beating the shit out of bad guys with it. And they're like, I'm never coming to Miami again.
How many people have been killed by a key to the city?
How many people have been killed by Shaquille O'Neal?
Jury's out on that one. Or maybe they're all, I don't know. I feel like the jury would get thrown into space. Shaquille O'Neal would be like, not catching
Anyway,
me.
the gun blade is so stupid because it's got the handle of a gun and then it goes into a big pointy sword.
But you also have like, there's the gun blade in that. And then there's the Reiter Palace in Bloodborne.
Yes.
Which is also a gun blade, but it's like a little rapier that's got like a little dueling pistol in it, which feels like something a dude with a powdered wig would just be like such an asshole about, you know? Like he'd be like, aha, a duel. What kind of duel? You didn't say. I'm going to fucking stab you and then shoot you.
Where do you land on lightsabers? I mean, don't land on lightsabers, but where do they sit?
I was just thinking about this. I don't even want to talk about them. I want to talk about swords. I feel like they're definitely their sword, you know, they're sword analogs. Like but the fact that they cut through anything, basically, it's somehow kind of less interesting than a sword, where it's like,
I agree.
Some of the fun thing of a sword is, will it cut through that or not? You know?
Yeah. Cause I when I was putting together my very stupid list, I was thinking like, well, obviously a lightsaber is hovering very close to this department right now, but I don't want to make it street legal. I don't think it should be eligible. So we could save that for another day.
Fair enough. Yeah, I think it's interesting how there is like in fiction, there's a bunch of like there's gun blades or there's like, you know, it's like a sword that shoots bullets, which I guess that was a thing at some point in like a very limited capacity. Like I think some German Duke had one of those things made custom by some artisan and then was like never actually used it because he didn't go into battle. It was like if you're going to give people swords or you're going to give people guns, you kind of got to pick one. But with the exception of like bayonets, where it's like a gun with a sword on it, which is just a barbaric thing to have, where it's like, oh, to shoot him, is he dead? I don't know, stab him some more, see what happens. But like, there's something funny about like, I don't know, you don't bring a knife to a gunfight, but maybe if you have a sword fight, you're not feeling good, bring a little gun in there, put a gun in the handle, see what happens.
Yeah.
So like that's a good list of swords. It's funny that was basically pretty much all katanas or just big ass buster swords. Like
there wasn't a ton of variety in there.
The one sword that we should totally mention is the great Moonlight Blade that shows up in every FromSoft game.
That's a good
about
one.
that one, which is basically like they're all kind of paying respects to Berserk, which is Guts has that big ass giant dumb sword, which is cool as hell. But like I think it's funny how like FromSoft is like, yeah, we put the Moonlight Blade in everything, even our old spreadsheet software from when we were just a regular software company.
No, we're incredibly biased because we both really love video games, and it's our jobs to love video games. But I would say that in terms of fiction, pop culture, video games have done some of the most insane and interesting and just all around heaviest lifting of swords, period. Like the fact that in video games, they're just like, here's a sword that's on fire the whole time, or here's a sword that freezes people. You know, I love that stuff. That's so great. And it's also like they've made video games where you can use a sword to target individual body parts and sort of slice and dice and cauterize the wound. And, there's a Metal Gear game where you just cut people diagonally like fucking pineapples or whatever. Like they really have a good time with swords over there in video games.
I like it. It's a good time. Let's talk about some movie swords though, because there's plenty of those too. I think the best sword movie is Highlander. Like I think that is like Cutlery and More the movie. Like that is entirely a movie about sword dudes being sword dudes.
It really is.
When's the last time you watched that movie?
It's been a very long time.
Because I watched it pretty recently. It's so much fucking fun, and it has no right to exist because it's a completely fucking wackadoo concept. And my theory is that it's only exists because Terminator was successful. And like Terminator is about somebody coming from the future and being naked. This mysterious dude and naked. That's anyway, it comes from the future. He's a mysterious dude. And he's like, I have this crazy backstory. I'm this guy from the future. And then there's this other guy from the future who's scary and dressed like a metalhead and is huge. And in Highlander, and there's a little romance thing that goes on there. And in Highlander, it's dudes from the past where there's like one dude who is like mysterious and handsome and he's from the distant past and he's being chased down by this giant dude. In this case, the Kurgan played by Clancy Brown, Mr. Krabs himself. who basically is the dress that he's got the same like fashion sense as the Terminator, the original.
Right.
Yeah. And it's funny how it's like sort of a similar beat, and there's all these there's flashbacks and flash forwards and, respectively each of them. But like, that's just about like dudes who've had swords for a long time. It also has one of the funniest fucking lines of all time, which is, oh god, let me see if I get this right. It's, I'm not a Spaniard, I'm Egyptian, delivered by Sean Connery, which just like breaks your brain. But yeah, that movie's fun
What a
as hell.
treasure that man
and
was.
there's a whole scene where like, basically the love interest or like the female lead is like, she's a fucking sword expert. Like that's her job. And which is like some dude's, dream girl. And, she's like, and examining the crime scene is like, this is from a really old sword. Who would have such an old sword? And then she meets, fucking Raiden or whatever. That movie's so much fun. It's so stupid. And it's totally like, it inspired definitely so many like replica blades available at your local mall or, behind the counter at your head shop, maybe your comic shop, that kind of thing.
That in terms of movies that have sold the most swords, that's gotta be in the top 3.
Yeah. Probably the top 3 is Lord of the Rings though.
Yeah.
Which I love. I love that the swords in that universe have names. Like they all have unique names. Like, Frodo's sword is Sting, which has an action feature where it lights up when orcs are around. And then like, there's like a whole storyline about like the shards of Narsil being reforged to form whatever the Anduin or whatever it's called. The sword that's like the Return of the King sword. But then also like Gandalf's a fucking wizard who has a staff that can like shoot shit out of it. And he's like got magic powers, but he's also just got like a regular ass sword. He's got the most like fucking vanilla starter, level 1 Skyrim looking sword. It's just called Glamdring, which is a cool fucking name. But like, it sounds kind of like glamping, but it's Glamdring. But like, I don't know.
Glamdring, yeah.
Glamdring sounds like you're forging a sword. Like I like that it's got a good onomatopoeia to it. But
we're going up to the Hamptons this weekend and we're going Glamdring.
We're going Glamdring gliding. It's like hang gliding, but you got a fucking sword.
We're doing fucking wine and Glamdring. It's gonna be amazing.
Conan the Barbarian, that's a big one. He's got that. So I don't know why I keep saying he's got that sword. These all have swords in them. So that's why we're fucking talking about it.
I want to point out that this entire podcast is indistinguishable from something that you and I would have theoretically made at 16 years old in the parking lot of a convenience store while drinking like Slurpees or something. We'd have been saying, be like, who else has a really fucking cool sword? Zorro.
Let's try to list all the swords we know in movies and also games, but also in real life.
Zorro uses it to write his initials and also tickle people.
I don't like Zorro's sword. I don't like the Three Musketeers.
I don't like Zorro, period. I don't like the Musketeers. I don't like any of those guys.
I'm a bigger fan of the parody sword, the little rapier that Tom the cat gets in Tom and Jerry. That he when he's dueling with Jerry and they curve them into hooks or whatever. He's always like whipping it around and doing silly shit with it. I like that sword better than the ones they actually use in in the various. That feels like an affront to swords in films because like some of the earliest. The classic, just dudes grabbing the chandelier and swinging around with the sword and like sliding on the tapestry and dueling on the staircase, that whole thing. But I don't like those kinds of swords, so they don't count on my list.
What are your thoughts on the swords the magician uses to put in the box with the lady to pretend to the audience that he's killing her?
I don't like those. I don't like those.
I don't like them either. I don't think he should do that.
Those feel, aside from that he should not be doing that. Yeah. I also think that those are probably like, they're not even cool swords.
No.
Like I feel like they're too proppy.
You couldn't cut, I don't think you could cut butter with them.
You ever see like dudes who do domino rallies?
I try not to do that.
You ever just go on YouTube and look up domino rallies?
No, I don't.
I feel like those guys.
I had this like conscious thing a couple years ago. I realized there's a finite amount of time on Earth. Yeah, talking about swords for 40 minutes is it's up there. I'll do it, but
I got a Chrome plugin. It blocks ads, but also blocks videos about dominoes. I don't watch that. If
I had to watch an ad, like 2 ads before a domino rally video, I would stop everything in my life and go, "Is this worth it? Is this worth doing?"
In my defense, because no one else is going to jump to my defense here. I put on Reading Rainbow for my kid, and they did the episode about if you give a mouse a cookie, and the sort of like activity tied to that was this utter fucking psychopath explaining how he sets up dominoes for like, and he does this whole domino thing. And at one point they go, and they just spell out the word dominoes, which was so fucking dumb.
Do you know that?
But my point is, the dominoes he was using, I think at some point they just started being like rectangles, which somehow makes it less impressive. Like if they were regular dominoes, I'd be like, oh, those have a regular purpose. The magician swords is what I'm getting at here. Is the magician swords are just like, they're like pieces of metal. They're probably not sharp. I know they're like pointy, but they're not like swords. Maybe they are. I don't know. I've never seen a magician do that in person. But
do you know that In My Defense was the name of the first sword store?
Sort of.
Sort of.
Kill Bill has some good swords, obviously.
Yeah,
Hattori Hanzo. My favorite Tarantino sword, though, and the one that I think fully cemented me being like, oh, fuck, katanas are cool as shit, is the Pulp Fiction sword.
Yes.
That scene, that is like my favorite scene in that whole movie, and I love that movie top to bottom.
That's a gun movie.
That's a gun movie. There's a lot of gun
when a sword
stuff.
shows up to a gunfight, it's a good time.
Yeah, they got the Ventures playing or whatever.
I always really love when a sword appears in a thing that you didn't expect it to be in at all. Like there's nothing at any point during Pulp Fiction where you're like, I think a sword is going to show up in this movie. Nothing indicates that at all.
It's so cool. Like
it's great.
It has no business being there, and it totally works. And I love it. Also fits into the whole headcanon of like maybe that's like Buck's Hattori Hanzo sword that he pawned and it made its way from Texas to L.A. or whatever. Like
there's a great video that is worth the ads on YouTube where Tarantino goes through that whole shot, and they basically explain like why. Like that shot of Bruce Willis looking around that pawn shop and just looking at different items to grab. And he's like, no. Like the way that's framed is really fascinating because they shoot the sword like all the way up facing down on him just for scale. And it's like, oh, fuck, I need that sword. It's great.
It's so cool.
I wish Die Hard had a sword in it.
I love like a good... Like a katana is like the Ray-Ban Wayfarers of swords. It's just a good katana with no bullshit going on, just like a good old plain and simple. It's just fucking timeless, you know?
I agree.
It's like Chuck Taylor's. It's just a fucking, you can't mess with it. But yeah, that whole scene is just so fucking cool. It gets me so excited. I love it. Speaking of probably unnecessarily complex knife shit, Blade the movie.
Vampire? Blade the movie, the vampire.
The uphill ice skating opponent or whatever.
I thought you meant just like the idea of a blade. Yeah, Blade has a great one.
He's got a pretty cool sword. Doesn't it have some stupid gizmo in the button? It's got like a thing where he twists it at the end or something. Am I thinking of the right thing? Like does he have like it uses as like a debt? I could be imagining this.
He has mints in it.
Mints?
So when he sucks blood, people aren't like, "What's that smell?" He's like, "Oh, nothing. It's alkaloid." It's got like a little pop thing on the bottom, kind of like a Pez dispenser.
I feel like maybe I'm imagining this, but I think it's got some shit in the. I could be anyway. I like that one. That's kind of it's a little bit try hard, like everything else about Blade, but it's become sort of. I feel like it's aged well, you know. And he's also got that fucking boomerang that just looks like the inside of a KitchenAid.
That's great too.
Where it's
like that
where
a lot.
do you catch that? You know, I guess he catches it in the middle because he's Blade.
Blade has legitimate ways to extract blood from people normally, right? And so the fact that he has a sword is pretty cool because he could just suck your neck, but instead he's like, I'm going to chop you.
He doesn't bite anybody, does he?
But he can. He's got the teeth for it.
Anybody can bite anybody. That doesn't mean they do it.
I know, but he's got vampire fangs.
Yeah, that's true.
So that means so if you have those, they're little straws. You get the blood out.
Little straws. All right. Can I just say that's one thing I really appreciated about Nosferatu, where he's just like he really bit the fuck out of people.
Yeah, he really did.
I think it's stupid when vampire fangs are like little straws because that's dumb. That doesn't work. That's not how teeth work.
Well, he had to get over that fucking big horseshoe mustache he had from Office Space.
Yeah, but like I don't bite it. Like just it makes more like I don't. You always see like the little tiny bite marks, and it's like I guess that blood would come out of that. But if you're really trying to get at it, if you're like a really serious vampire, you would just open a vein and be like glug 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 glug, and like that probably isn't too like that's going to be messy. You know,
I'm actually surprised more vampires don't have swords because it's like the idea of like if you could cut off somebody's hand and then just like bring it on the bus.
Do you think that's like a special occasion thing, like sabering a bottle of champagne? You know,
is it still good? Like, do they need it to be attached to the guy or whatever? Like, can you like use a sword to cut off somebody's like leg and then put a straw in the foot and then walk around and commute to work or whatever? Does that still work? You still get the juice or the power?
I think that would be stupid.
Yeah, no shit. Yes.
I think if you're trying to be a good vampire, don't do that. But that's who knows. Other good sword movies is like fucking the entirety of samurai cinema. Obviously, like
other good sword movies is the fucking entirety of samurai.
No, I mean like
cinema.
all of Kurosawa,
I agree.
Yojimbo and Seven Samurai, and other stuff like Lady Snowblood, Sonny Chiba movies. There's so much stuff in that department that obviously made swords fucking cool. But like I don't know.
This show has the energy of like one of those like drunk PowerPoint presentations where we're just like, let me tell you why it's worth staying up for the sunset.
This is definitely a drunk. We should have probably prefaced it with that, but like this is like a TED talk, but it's from a dude named Ted. This is.
It's like a Todd talk.
Yeah, this is fucking Todd from Beavis and Butthead talk. One of my favorite sword scenes though in movies is in Step Brothers, where he's like, check this out. He whips out the katana and he's like, check it out. It's Randy Jackson's autograph. And he's like, yeah, but why is it on a sword? And he's like, it's all I had on me at the time. Like that is a fucking just top tier joke. I love that so goddamn much. Where it's
you and I want to tell a story. You and I had a really stupid thing happen with a sword in real life, probably a couple of times actually. But there was that X-Men Apocalypse movie? Was the one where Oscar Isaac dressed like Ivan Ooze and he just walked around going like, I don't like these X-Men guys. We got to get them. So they cast Olivia Munn in that movie as Psylocke. And you and I were geeking out because we were both like, Psylocke's awesome. Yeah, grew up, it was like one of my first cartoon crushes or whatever, those Marvel cards when we were kids. And they're like, Olivia Munn's going to come to your office and you can interview her. And we're like, that's great. She's been working in video game shit forever. She was on G4. She's great. She's hilarious. She showed up. We did a great interview with her. It was super fun. And then I don't know who had the idea, but I think at some point she told us she had been training with to do sword stuff for the movie. And like, we were like, oh, okay, cool. We should film that. Right. So we went out into like the sort of like the entryway of the old IGN office, and we had a sword in our prop closet. I don't know why. This dumb shit was just always there, right? There was just like random costume crap all the time. So there was a sword in there, and she picked it up, and she did like legitimately good like sword stuff. I don't know what
she just was kind of whipping it around and stuff.
Yeah, whipping it around, cool. Doing some stuff like that. And at the end, she went super fast, and the fucking blade flew off the handle. Do you remember this?
Oh yeah,
yeah. The blade flew off the handle.
That was my sword. That's what fucking happened to that sword. I was wondering what happened to that sword.
Okay, well, what happened with that sword was it almost got someone killed.
That's true.
That flew off the handle. I don't remember how sharp it was or anything like that, but it flew into the air, almost hit somebody, and landed. And she was like, "Oh shit!" And then we cut the video, and I think we cut around that part. And then the movie came out, and I don't think she does anything with the sword in that movie. They might have.
No, she just kind of shows up. They make her one of like the Apocalypse's horsemen or whatever.
Yeah, it was weird. But
that's
anyway.
also, it's funny that like Psylocke even has a sword. That they completely like basically rebooted her character in the comics, where like originally Psylocke was like this sort of like new age hippie woman who would like shoot psychic butterflies at people. Mm-hmm. And they were like, well, this isn't working. Let's do something cool. Let's give her armor. And they were like, it's still not working. All right, put her in a swimsuit and give her a fucking sword. And they're like, oh, there, people, all right. Okay, people are into her now. Right on. Cool. Yeah. No, so that sword, the story there. I love that for a second there, I just had really... I had swords, but they were like shitty hand-me-down swords. Mm-hmm. That sword, we were about to go record our old podcast, The Comedy Button. We were recording it at our good pal Anthony Gallegos' apartment. His former roommate, Arthur Geese, was about to move out, and there was a giant pile of shit he was trying to get rid of by the door. And I just distinctly remember there was a Ghost in the Shell wall scroll, and there was a fucking katana that had electrical tape all over the handle. And I was like, well, I'm taking a sword. And so I took a sword home. And at that point, my wife was with, my girlfriend, and she was like, cool. And now I'm like, honey, baby, I'm getting swords. And she's like, why? And I'm like, oh, man, fuck you.
Like, we're adults now. Yeah, we pay taxes and shit.
Yeah.
Why was there electrical tape on the handle?
I have no idea.
To keep the blade from flying off, I guess.
It didn't work.
Yeah.
No, it was a good little, it was definitely like a shitty mall katana. But like, you know, I had some fun with that. I don't know what I did with it. I probably fucked up a piñata or two. That's fun as using a sword on a piñata because it's just cheating. You know?
Yeah, that's definitely cheating.
That's like using a no clip code in a first person shooter where you're like, haha, go through the wall, fuck you.
Yeah, that definitely feels like it's like big head mode and or something like that, right? Like you change the parameters on the cheat codes a little bit there. I feel like most swords were sold at malls for a really long time. I think in America, the only way to get a sword for a really long time was a mall.
In the 20th century, I guarantee you, yes, that's true. Like they definitely sold more swords at malls than they did at Renaissance fairs even.
Oh, definitely. Yeah. Because Renaissance fairs are like an annual thing and malls were open all year and you could go to a mall whenever and then come home with a sword. And I remember kids like would save up for them. Like I knew people, I had new friends growing up, that would be like, oh dude, there's this sword at the mall that I got to get. And they would just save up for months and months and months and they'd get this sword. And then you'd be like, well, now what?
Yeah.
Like, what do you do with it?
You put it,
you know?
Yeah, that was my wife's question is what do you do with these swords? And I'm like, I'm going to be good at piñatas now. No, the one that I always wanted, which is also the most like mall ninja shit ever. And it's not a sword. Debatable. The knife from Mortal Kombat, the movie that Kano has.
That's great.
Which is like, I think that was one of those things in the same way that like, let me see if I got this right. In the same way that like the Scream mask was like a Halloween mask before it was a movie icon thing. I think that was just like a cool knife that was out there. And then Paul W.S. Anderson, or whoever was like, sick, let's give that to Kano. And
which stands for Wall Street, by the way. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah.
It's Paul Wall Street Anderson.
H.R. Giger is Human Resources Giger.
Yep. It's true. George R.R. Martin is actually George Railroad Martin.
Yep. H.R. Puffin Stuff is Henry Rollins Puffin Stuff. A lot of people don't know that.
It's actually Human Resources Puffin Stuff.
That's a good one. If you ever get called into a meeting with HR, do not address them as HR Puffin Stuff.
Yeah.
They don't like that at all.
And don't call them the home run team either. They hate that.
Yeah, so I don't know that we obviously have lots of strong feelings about swords because they're fucking sick.
Yeah. Also, I've never really been hurt by one, so I don't have a real reason to be mad at them.
That's fair. Yeah, I don't know. They're sort of they're relics. They're antiquities. I do have a couple little pieces of information about actual swords. One of these things sounds made up, but I swear to God it isn't. This came from the internet, so maybe it is made up at this point. Who knows? This is just one of those things that Google spat out that I think is very funny word salad. In the 1980s, Marcella Frangipani's team at Rome University discovered a cache of 9 swords and daggers dating all the way back to 3300 BCE. Frangipani declared the swords of Arslan Tepe the world's oldest and first swords ever discovered.
Frangipani.
You're right. Yeah. What is that? Does that mean like sweetbread or something? Like, I don't know what it's a flower, I think. Anyway.
Hey, I heard you're dating somebody new. Yeah, man, she's amazing, but she's always wearing these frangipanis.
Okay. Again, these are some of my.
What is this story? This a story of a guy who found 9 swords.
No, this woman, I think, found a bunch of knives and swords, and they're the oldest ones around.
Are they the oldest? That's the story is that they're the oldest.
They're old. They're real old.
All of them
are
old at the
swords.
same time?
It's weird. Not like 8 of them are from like 7,000 years ago, and one of them is from 1993. They don't know what's going on there. They were all buried.
One of them's like from Power Rangers.
Yes, there's just the Dragonzord whistle is in there. So I don't. Again, these are my dumbest Google searches of the week. It's like, what is oldest sword? What is the longest sword? And there's one in somewhere in the Middle East that doesn't fucking count because it's like 46 feet tall. It's a sculpture. It's not a goddamn sword. Who the fuck is going to pick that up? Dragonzord? I don't know.
Somebody, the rightful bearer will pick that up. Somebody will pick that up.
Yeah, I don't. That's all. Like, I guess Godzilla could do it. But that's stupid. Why would he get a sword? That's dumb. He doesn't even have thumbs. Anyway, the longest sword aside from that is the Odachi Norimitsu, which is a Japanese sword, fucking obviously, which is 377 centimeters long, which is what? Like I googled that.
It's like 2 or 3 feet.
That's a long. That's 4. Why are we so?
Or like a couple of miles.
Are we so dumb? It's probably 4 or 6 cubic meters, I think. How long is that? No one knows. It's 12 feet. I should have known that off the top of my head.
It's 1,300 hours long.
I don't know. I do kilometers and miles fine, but fucking centimeters always screw me up. I don't get it. I'm stupid. I grew up in a bad country that teaches me the wrong things. But yeah, so that's a very long sword, and it's I think it weighs like 30 pounds, which is like surprisingly light for something that long. But that's that's basically like the Millennia sword from Elden Ring. Like it's just
what's
super
the most
long.
What's the most curved a sword is allowed to be? Like, can it go up and then loop all the way back down like a rubber pencil, or like does that count?
That's a good question.
It's sharp, right? Or is it a different thing?
I'm going to type it in and see what happens. What's the most
curved
a sword can be? The first thing is an Elden Ring question. What's the big curved sword that so many players? The answer is Bloodhound Fang, which I love because it sounds like a band that does the Hooray for Boobies album.
And it's got bleed damage.
A curved sword is considered a scimitar. No shit. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think if it curves a certain point, it starts looking like Guinness World Record toenails where it circles around. It just starts becoming like a chakram or whatever.
I hate that I know exactly what you're talking about. I would get that book every year from Scholastic Book Fair, and every single year there was that one guy in there.
Yeah, you're just like, stop putting them in there.
I'm back, motherfuckers. Who's coming for the crown? None of you. I have a 15-year head start on toenails.
How fucking weird would it be if like one year that shows up and it's just like a 12-year-old boy who's got even longer fingers? You're like, how did you do that?
He's like, I'm coming for your crown, buddy. I'm coming slowly because I can't walk, but I'm coming for your crown.
Okay, so just to give a little bit of context to the validity of that information about the longest and the shortest sword or the oldest swords or whatever, I also the katana I got, the name of it is Tatsu, which I know it as like the angry guy from Ninja Turtles, right? The guy who just has like anger issues. He comes in, breaks a bunch of shit, and they're all like, "Dude, that's not okay. Do your workplace training or whatever." I Googled, I was like, what does Tatsu mean? And Google told me, thanks to the help of robots that live inside the computer, it says Tatsu is a Japanese word that means dragon. It can also refer to a flying roller coaster at Six Flags Magic Mountain in Valencia, California. So I'm pretty sure this katana is named after a Six Flags ride, which is pretty sick. Amusement parks, weird place you can get swords sometimes, right?
Yeah, you shouldn't though.
Yeah, no, absolutely not. Do not bring a sword on the roller coaster.
That's one of those times where I'm like, okay, we have too much freedom in this country.
Too much freedom. Get it out of here.
They shouldn't. There are plenty of traditional ways to get your head decapitated at an amusement park that don't involve buying something.
That's true.
It's also just don't buy anything you got to carry all day. Don't be that guy.
That's a good point. Just get a poster tube for your sword. Or don't do that. Probably make a sword out of a poster tube.
What you're supposed to do is you're supposed to get the birthday paper wrapper with the big tube and then you put the wrapping paper over it, and people are like, "That's weird. Is he going to wrap a present?" And you're like, "Haha! I'm actually here to kill you."
You know what would be a good fight, or not a fight really, is you get a wrapping paper cardboard tube, right, and then you get a fluorescent light bulb. Who's going to win that fight? Which is the cardboard going to bend, or is the fluorescent tube going to implode and put mercury gas in the air?
I feel like that. Yeah, that would be worse for the guy.
The puzzle is yours.
I don't want it. I don't want to have it.
I have some homework for our dear listeners. If they've sat through this long enough, they clearly have a penchant for swords and a dumb sense of humor. If you have not yet, go check out the Cold Steel video for Two-Handed Greatsword. Cold Steel is a company that makes. Well, they make some Mall Ninja swords. They're like high quality. They make that Tonto that I have. They make good quality swords, and to prove it, they put up videos demonstrating people using the swords in a variety of funny ways, including cutting a bunch of mats, which is like, okay, cutting a bunch of tatami mats, that's kind of cool. But then they keep cutting other shit. They'll bring out like a whole hog and they'll start cutting up the hog. They'll bring out like a Jell-O mold that's shaped like a man, and they cut that in half. And it's just
why would they make a Jell-O mold shaped like a man?
I mean, it's not the mold. They make like a big rubber. It's like a rubber replica man, and then they cut it. It's full of like fake blood and shit. The funniest part though is there's this large dude, large older middle-aged man who's out there with his giant fucking sword. He's like cutting pigs in half and stuff. And then it's like about halfway through the video, he seems like he's starting to get winded. And then this younger dude comes out and like stabs the sword into a wall and starts doing pull-ups on it. And then it cuts back to the older guy. And it was just like, okay, so like the guy who cuts pigs in half doesn't do pull-ups, but sure, whatever. It's really some of the best internet I've encountered in recent years. It's from like 10 years ago, so it's not even recent, but they keep doing it.
Did you like stab something in your house that makes like weird poison ventilation come out? Like,
not yet, I haven't.
Okay, because you're talking like there's a gas leak in your house.
I'm going to send you this video.
Old man, and he starts listening, and then the old man gets tired. A young man comes in.
You got to watch this video. It's the best goddamn video. They put it on the new Beavis and Butthead, the one where they were watching TikToks where the dude's teaching them how to do prison tattoos.
Probably the hardest I've laughed in 7 years.
Very good. Anyway, I hope that somebody learned a little bit about swords, but mostly I hope you got a good chuckle at the expense of us simpletons.
I really like the swords in Cyberpunk when that game launched on PS4 because they didn't do any of the animations, and you would chop a guy's head off and it would just like fly in his face. I had so much fun playing that, and then they patched it all, and I'm like, this is not cool anymore.
Drag.
It's okay.
Yeah, I guess that just didn't cut it.
Tell us your favorite sword. Talk to us about swords.
Yeah,
send us your favorite pictures of swords. Tell us your sword stories.
I said, you can find us on Patreon, patreon.com/thisthingrules. We also are on Blue Sky, thisthingrules.bluesky.social. We are on X at This Thing Rules. We are on the Discord at discord.comedybutton. We rent a room in a Discord basically. So we're on the Comedy Button Discord, but there's a little corner there for This Thing Rules stuff. So go check that out. And also, you can just email us if you wanted to send us some bullshit or say hi or whatever. thisthingrulesshow@gmail.com. I realize we've been not great about having a sort of dialogue with our wonderful listeners, of which there are a few, and we appreciate everyone who's taken the time to listen to this stupid fucking show. This is our 20th episode this week, which is 20. That's a bunch of episodes.
That's a lot of episodes.
That's a whole bunch of them.
I just went to swords.com. Don't do that. I got like a spamware pop-up. So
why isn't that being used for good?
Right? It's proof that the fucking internet is getting worse, is that somebody is squatting on swords.
Not good, not healthy.
No, not great for the ass or for the body or the internet.
No, thank you. So anyway, that does it for swords. I guess we should just cut it short right there. Schwing.
That's right. We'll see you next time when we talk about
tell us what to talk about.
Yeah, I guess a different weapon.
Send a message, whatever. No, take a break from wolves is okay. We can do wolves, I guess. I don't know. Some would say the wolf is the sword of the animal kingdom.
I don't think anyone has ever said that before. I think someone saying that is why they invented swords.
I guarantee you some dude with a ponytail and a wolf shirt holding a sword has said that.
I think that the fact that so many people who have ponytails have swords, and all of them should use the swords to cut off the ponytails drives me a little mad. The connection there, it's just so close. It's,
listen,
two ships passing in the night.
I appreciate if you didn't bring it up. It's a sword subject. Anyway, we gotta go. Before we go, just a big, huge thank you to our producer pals over on Patreon, Ben Burkhalter, Kevin Lemasurier, Steve Cam, Josh Page, Donald Cole, Caleb Hilliard, Billy McKendry, Chip Chunkling, and Scott Davis. Thank you all so much for your support.
Why'd you buy him?
Well, it's complicated, Brendan.
Well, what's so complicated? I can understand it. Why?
You don't understand.
No, I could probably understand.
You would never understand unless you lived alone.
So you live by yourself and want you get lonely and buy swords? I don't understand.
Well, you nailed it.
That's it?
Yeah.